All right. Welcome everyone to the Sustainability Advisory Committee meeting on Tuesday, the 2nd of February at 7 o'clock. And it'll be a virtual meeting. I'll read the preamble before we get started. So good evening. As chair of the Sustainability Advisory Committee, I am declaring that an emergency exists. And I'm invoking the provisions of RSA 91-A2-3B. Federal, state, and local officials have determined that gatherings of 10 or more people pose a substantial risk to our community in its continuing efforts to combat the spread of COVID-19. In concurring with their determination, I also find that this meeting is imperative to the continued operation of town government and services, which are vital to public safety and confidence during this emergency. As such, this meeting will be conducted without a quorum of this body physically present in the same location. At this time, I also welcome members of the public accessing this meeting remotely. Even though this meeting is being conducted in a unique manner under unusual circumstances, the usual rules of conduct and decorum apply. So we'll start with a roll call attendance. So if each member can state their name and also state if they're with anyone else in the room during the meeting, it will be really appreciated. So I'll start with myself, Chetna Palmer, chair of the committee, and I am alone in the room. Bev,
short for Beverly Chapman, and I am alone.
Nico.
I'm Nico Papakostandis. I'm the select board rep to this committee, and I'm alone in the room.
Kristen?
I'm Kristen Osterwood. I'm currently alone in the room, but the family might be walking by.
Jackie?
I'm Jackie Ojala, and I'm alone in the room.
Adam?
Adam Dunville, and I'm alone in the room.
Chris?
Hi, Christopher Zigmont, Crestview Drive, and I am alone in the room.
Nina? You're muted, Nina.
Are you muted, Nina?
Sorry about that. Nina Braun, and I am alone in the room.
Thank you. Dave?
Dave Sharple is town planner. I'm alone in the room.
Thank you. All right, well, welcome everyone. Just want to introduce, before we go on to our approval of the minutes, we have Adam Dunville, who was, I guess, sworn in, if that's the word, yesterday at the select board to join our committee. So it would be great if Adam could introduce yourself and maybe give us a bit of background about yourself and reasons for joining the SAC.
Sure, absolutely. Good evening, everyone. My name is Adam Dunville. I'm an attorney at McLean Middleton, based out of Concord for the most part, but work in Manchester and the Newington offices as well. My practice focuses on environmental and energy issues. I live here in town, over on Squire Way by the YMCA, obviously, and I wanted to join to be able to help out with the community and give back in the areas that I enjoy working in. So I'm glad to be part of the board and look forward to working with all of you.
Thank you, Adam, and thank you for stepping up. And we have
welcome.
Thank you very much.
A full complement of on the board, which is great, which is really good. So thank you. Shall we go on to the minutes from the 5th of January meeting 2021? Approval, any comments before we move to approve them? No? Do I get a motion to approve?
I'm so moved.
Can I have a second?
I'll second it, Nina.
Thank you, Nina. All right. So we had a couple of action items. Do we have any updates at all, Kristen, on the battery situations or anything?
We don't. I think Dave and I were swamped. That's what I'm going to say, Dave. We were swamped this month, and we are going to connect next week when we are less swamped.
Okay.
But one thing I wanted to ask, Adam, who just joined, I just was checking our website on the town website, and it says his term ends April of this year. I assume he's going to be on the board for more than 4 months. So
I hope so.
I would hope. I mean, I don't think we're that terrible.
You know what? He's coming in. He was appointed to replace somebody that had stepped off, but obviously if he displays interest in April, we'll reappoint him at that time.
Oh, okay. So he does need to be reappointed. Okay.
So our job is to hold his interest.
So you've got, yeah, right. We have to hold him for 3 months.
Please pique my interest.
Perfect.
Okay, and then we can act terrible after I get it.
Exactly.
All right.
Perfect.
Good catch there, Kristen. All right. And I don't know if there was any other action items. I'm still looking into the blue bag situation, and I did reach out to Jen Perry, who is joining us in a few minutes to talk about recycling. And I'm going to sort of catch up with her properly with the background and the history of the blue bag system, and also I'm gathering information from other towns as to how they get rid of their landfill waste without creating bags upon bags, but also it's, we do as Kristen said last time, having the pay for what you throw away does incentivize people to produce less waste for landfill. So that'll be ongoing.
Madam Chair, can I just ask a quick question on that topic? And I know you're looking into it, and I guess as you look into it, when we reconvene next month, the one question I'd love to have answered is, obviously we're all residents, we know the situation we participate in, but I'm curious who or how the specific choice of the specific bag of that specific material, who makes that choice? I understand the system, and the system, as you said, is sort of self-regulating and incentivizes low use, but I'm curious what actual individual or what committee or what department or what company makes that individual choice.
So Chris, I think if I may, when Jennifer comes on, she can answer that question as to the vendor. Okay. But the blue bag is it's twofold. It's number one, you're paying for your waste, but it's also an offsetting of the cost of solid waste management. And Jennifer can get into that too. So it's actually, helping the taxpayers in that it's offsetting what the expense is for the solid waste, but I'll leave that for Jen to explain.
Sure. And I'm not challenging that. I just wonder about this bag over that bag over another bag, right?
Yes.
So, the principle of it, the system, I completely get. It's just, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess the other question also would be, whether instead of going for single-use plastic bags, is there potential for having compostable bags as opposed to of just plastic bags, and then also the cost implications of that, and so on and so forth. So I think there is probably a lot to dig into on that. All right. So is Jennifer online? I see her.
Yes, I am.
Hi, Jen.
Hello.
Hi. Thank you for joining us on this snowy evening. So thank you very much. Can I hand over to you in terms of take us through the recycling situation in town? And it'd be great to see your presentation.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I'm happy to meet with you all, and I know that you're all very passionate about recycling. I have no doubt about that, and I'm sure you have some good ideas, and I'm always not just me, but the department, Public Works Department, is always interested in considering new ideas. But if I can take this opportunity to just do some of the basics of recycling, because I realize there's also a public audience that may not be as passionate and as informed as you are. And it's a job that we all have as members of the community to try and keep learning about what's right in recycling, and because it's always changing. I think that's our job in Public Works, is to do our best to educate and provide information to people, and try and minimize the amount of contamination that gets into the recycling stream. That's very critical, because we do get fined as a community when there's contamination in excess of, I think it's about a half of 1%. It's not much that it takes to contaminate a load that goes to waste management. So basically, the new mantra is recycle often and recycle right. It's not recycle first. And that's the challenge that we're up against, where people are doing what I call wish cycling, where they want something to be recyclable, but it really is not recyclable. And it devalues the value of the recycling materials. So there's basically 3 rules of recycling. Recycling bottles, cans, and paper. I think that's pretty standard. I think most people understand that. Number 2, keeping items clean and dry. And that can be a challenge for some of our smaller receptacles that are out there, the 12-gallon open bins. That's why we've really tried to promote the larger 64-gallon toters, because they have a lid, and even in a rain or a snowstorm, recycling material is going to stay dry. And the 3rd basic rule is no plastic bags. Plastic bags that are free and mobile in the environment aren't good. They're also devastating to the mechanical equipment at the MRF where things are sorted. It's all automated. And if you think about a plastic bag, it has a lot of tensile strength, and it will bind up heavy machinery in no time. And it's a safety concern for the operators of that machinery. They have to stop the line. They have to climb on top and literally remove bags. So we ask that people not use bags to combine their recyclables. They should just go straight into the recycling containers, whether it's the 64-gallon toter or the 12-gallon bin. Exeter has what's called single stream recycling, where everything goes into that one bin. Your paper, your corrugated cardboard, your bottles, cans, and you don't need to do any sorting. But that makes it even more challenging to keep the recycling stream clean, because there is a tendency for people to just want to put anything that they think might be recyclable, like a plastic hose. Again, if you think about a hose, that's going to be it's going to bind up the machinery at the MRF and be a real problem. So again, it's the basic recycling. We've got to get that right before we get into the more esoteric aspects of recycling. And that we started, actually, I think Nico might have suggested that I come here because about a year ago, we had presented to the select board this, the basics of recycling. And we also had a table set up at the last public meeting that I attended, remember that, which was before elections at the
talk, right? Yeah.
Yes, it was back in March, so just less than a year ago, and we answered a lot of questions. It was a great opportunity for us to be in front of people that had pressing questions about recycling, and we want to do more of that. But obviously, this year it's been very challenging to do anything that was hands-on. So again, thank you for this opportunity. So I guess like I said, the most common contaminants are the plastic bags. You can recycle them, but what you should do is take them to your point of purchase. So if you buy them at the grocery store or at Home Depot or wherever, most of those stores do have a container near the entry where you can return your where you can return your bags. They have a totally different process that they handle, and we encourage people to do that. We don't have a receptacle for them in town, but when you're doing your shopping, just bring your excess bags back, and they will do a different type of processing of those. We encourage people to keep food and liquids out of the recycling stream. I am going to mention something at the very end, though, that I'm excited to talk to you about that's new for the town of Exeter. But foods and liquids can be composted. Or if they're not composted, they need to go into your blue bag for solid waste disposal. Electronics and small appliances have no place in recycling. But it's amazing how much we do see that people are, again, they're wish cycling. We just can't take those. Another big problem is any kind of textiles or bedding. Again, that kind of fibrous material wreaks havoc with the machinery at the MRF. Holiday lights, hoses, hangers, metal hangers. People, again, think that that's something that can be recycled because it's metal, but it can't be. That's not the appropriate place for it. We do have a metals container at the transfer station, and materials like that can go to the transfer station. You can drive there and dispose of those, a lot of these things there. Plastic film, plastic sheeting, packaging, none of that is recyclable. Again, plastics, it's just your bottles and containers, numbers 1, 2, and 5.
I was going to ask you that. I remember at your display at the Tuck, you identified the numbers, so it'd be great to remind everybody. So 1, 2, and 5 are the ones they're looking for.
Yep, thank you. Yep, 1, 2, and 5. I think it's important if people want to have a way to remember, it's the shape of the plastic is important. It's either a tub, or a bottle, or a jug, right? It's not free-form plastic. It's not plastic sheeting. It's not your kid's slide. That is not recyclable material. No paper napkins, paper plates, paper cups, or paper tissues. Again, because usually they have been used, they're dirty, they're not recyclable, and their material composition is so thin, it really has no recyclable value. And what we're trying to do is maximize the value of these materials so that we're paying the least amount, because again, and I'll get to this at the end, we are paying to get rid of recycling. We're not making money on recycling, but we're trying to minimize what we're paying. Any kind of styrofoam or polystyrene, none of that is recyclable. That does need to be discarded or reused. Remember, that's one of the legs of the Mobius, the triangle, is to reuse. And I know people that cut up styrofoam and use it for packaging and find other purposes for it. We don't see this too much, tires, auto parts, and scrap metal. But again, we do have opportunities for those to be taken to the transfer station. Any kind of concrete, demolition material, sheetrock need to go into the demolition bags, the orange bags that are part of our pay-as-you-throw program. They shouldn't really be going into the solid waste. It is dealt with separately. No medical waste. And this was one that I think has raised a lot of eyebrows, and I like to repeat it. No shredded paper. Shredded paper is almost impossible to handle. It's been cut so fine that again, it really has no fibrous value in the recycle stream. So if you've gone through and shredded documents, that really just needs to either be used in your fireplace or it needs to be put in your blue bag. And the other thing that I know you're not going to like to hear, but I think this is important for people to just, again, get back to the basics of recycling. Recycle right, recycle often, but when in doubt, throw it out. Yeah, if you don't know that it's recycling and you're wondering whether or not I can recycle it, err on the side of throwing it out instead of recycling. You're not benefiting the overall program by putting something in, whether if you're not sure that it should be recycled. We do have people at Public Works that answer the phone every day during the week, Monday through Friday, and we have a hotline too on recycling. So recycling and solid waste. So we encourage people, if they have questions, they can email us. We have a lot of good information that we can send out. Let me see if I can share my screen for just a second. I'll show you some of the, I thought I would be able to put my hands on it quicker, but we have some handouts that are really simple that basically show people what is recyclable. Your paperboard boxes, newspapers. I think most people understand that. But keeping out the other materials and keeping out the food, soiled paper, like a pizza box. Usually the lid is okay. But if the base has been contaminated with oils, that should not be recycled. That needs to be discarded.
Jennifer, you showed the cereal boxes, the inside, the plastic of the inside of the cereal boxes?
No, not the plastic, but the box itself.
Boxes.
Yes. The box itself is fine. I can really get into the nitty gritty. It gets a little bit confusing, but there are some boxes that aren't as recyclable, and they are typically, it depends. It's a rare case, but it's your freezer boxes that may have heavier wax coatings and things of that nature. And some microwavable boxes are not good. They have a lot of coatings that make it challenging, but we don't see so much of it, so that's not our biggest concern. But there are a lot of nuances to recycling right.
What about the like the pasta boxes that you get, and they've got like a clear plastic?
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up, because those particular boxes aren't recyclable. But one thing that we have learned in the past year, since we were doing all of this work at the select board and before voting, we were putting out the information that we had been given that clamshell boxes, which are your clear plastic boxes that are used for takeout, that are used for fruit a lot of times, bakery goods, those are now recycled by Waste Management. A year ago, they were telling us no. So that's some great news, because that, I know in my own household, that it doesn't take up much weight, but it takes up a lot of space. And that's great that Waste Management is now allowing us to include that in the recycle stream. So we're trying hard to get that word out. We've put some Facebook posts, but we need to continue to do it, because I think we did a good job a year ago telling people, no, that they're not recyclable, but that, again, it's an evolution of the process, and that's changed. So we're really excited about that. But some of the, they're inconsistent. The ones that are really, really heavy duty that you absolutely have to use a pair of scissors to get into, if that's the kind of box you're talking about, Chetna, those are not recyclable. But the lighter plastic that, your bakery or fruit, berries come in, those are.
I was thinking of
labeled. Sorry, only if it's labeled 1 or 2 or 5, correct?
Correct. Yes, they still need to be that same number 1, 2, and 5 for plastic.
Sorry, Jen. I was thinking about you got the dried pasta in a box, and they normally, have a sort of clear plastic covering so you can see what shape the pasta is.
Yeah.
So just wondering whether the whole thing is non-recyclable. Would you take the plastic box and the box would still be?
Correct. The plastic film on the top is not recyclable, right, but the box itself is. And again, the box is going to have, as Kristen mentioned, that number of 1, 2, or 5 to make it recyclable. But yeah, films of any kind are not recyclable. So I mentioned I had a couple of teasers in there for you that I wanted to talk about. And one, I know I've spoken with a couple of you over the years about the possibility of setting up a composting program at the transfer station. And Jay Perkins, our highway superintendent, who also oversees the solid waste side of the business, we met with Mr. Fox Composting, and they have presented us with a proposal that we wanted to discuss tonight, and I will be discussing in a not too distant meeting with the select board, putting 2 64-gallon toters at the transfer station where they can be monitored for people to divert some of the, up to, most households, it's anywhere from 17 to 25% of the weight in their blue bags is compostable food waste that, can be diverted from the blue bags, diverted from the landfills, and certainly has a high value. And the wonderful thing about Mr. Fox and anybody who does high quality composting is, it's not like us in our backyards where, we don't want to put any fat, we don't want to put any dairy, we don't want to put any meat. Their process is a very mechanized, maintained, high temperature process where they can successfully compost all of those materials. And they're doing these kind of programs in over, I think, 9 or 10 of the surrounding communities that have, on demand 2 to 3 containers that they will come in weekly and collect that material and bring it back to their composting facility in Elliott, Maine. And we're excited about this possibility. I mean, we're always, I don't know if you realize it, but this year with everybody being home, at least for most of this past year, our solid waste tonnage is up 10%. Because people are home and using that at home. They're not in the office. And recycling is up about 2%. So we really want to continue to make inroads on reducing our solid waste costs. And we see this, there is a small cost to this. Let me see, it is $120 per month for 2 bins. We like to think that we might outgrow it, and I think that's possible that we might be looking at 3 or 4 toters at some point, but I think we'd start small. I know there are a lot of people in Exeter who are already using Mr. Fox composting for curbside pickup. They're going to continue, I'm sure, want to continue to do that. This is an opportunity for people who don't want to pay for curbside, who could come to the transfer station and deposit their compostable kitchen materials. But again, it is just for food waste. It's not for paper products or anything else. I know that there are compostable materials, but a lot of people don't pay close enough attention to what is truly labeled compostable and what is not. Similar to that, we have to police what people, we don't want contamination going into that. The contamination concern is, like I said, compostable plates and forks, but the bags. And so we're going to have to really work hard with people, because I've been guilty of that myself. I bought compostable bags that were still in my compost pile a year later because they weren't really compostable. And so we're just going to ask people to dump their materials, take whatever they used, if it's a pail or whatever they have back home. And if they've used a liner, that they dispose the liner in another receptacle that we would have right there at the transfer station. But we know it's going to take some attention on the part of our transfer station attendant and, education with the public and that. But we think that this is going to be a great way to divert some of the waste. And I think you also probably realize that if you can get your kitchen waste out of your blue bag is going to last a lot longer, and it's not going to smell. And so you might be able to go every other week with your blue bag, depending on your household. I realize a family isn't probably going to be able to do that. But if you're, a 1 or 2 person family, you might be able to get a lot more mileage out of your blue bag. So,
Jen, I had 2 questions reflecting back on the recycling comments from earlier, if you would. One, you mentioned at the top that we pay a fine, obviously, when we put things in the recycling stream that aren't recyclable. We get hit with a fine for that. Round numbers, what is that fine worth annually to us?
Well, we've been pretty fortunate, but again, we're pretty vigilant, and I think Waste Management has probably not been as vigilant as they should be. We only had to pay one fine this past year, and it was $250, or maybe it was $500. Excuse me, it was $500. Okay. It could add up very quickly if every load goes in and they're really pressing it. And I think you probably are aware too that in years past, the majority of recyclable materials were going overseas, and a lot of it went to China. And China established some very strict guidelines, and actually it was China that drove that 0.5% of a contamination rate requirement. And so, I think it's a worthwhile effort. I don't think it's unreasonable to expect people to get, or communities to get, to that low level. But it does require diligence. It's going to probably require a little more auditing and actually going around and placing stickers. And we do require Waste Management to put a sticker on a container that has a contaminant in it. They should not be collecting it, because then people aren't learning, right? So, but we all have a role to play in that process, and definitely have some room for improvement.
Excellent. Yeah, my other question on that note was, do you know, or can you give me a wild guess, approximately how many of those 64-gallon totes are out there in Exeter? What's a wild number, I guess, how many we have out in the streets?
You mean the 64 gallons that we use for recycling?
Yes.
I don't have a number. I wish I did. I probably could do a little research. We've been selling them for easily 10 years now, and we know how many we've ordered over the years, and that's pretty much the number, but I don't know that off the top of my head. But I can get back to you on that.
That'd be great.
Jen, one question on the bags for the Mr. Fox composting. I know that Mr. Fox provides bags to people who have the curbside pickup. Would it be, because I'm just imagining people driving there and they have like smelly garbage and like then dumping it and it's been there for a whole week. I'm just wondering if it'd be possible to use Mr. Fox's compostable bags that they provide. Because there are quite a few compostable bags that would compost how Mr. Fox does it, but it wouldn't compost in your backyard.
Right. We did talk to them about that as a possibility. The one thing that you should understand about the transfer station is we have no exchange of cash at that location.
Oh, I wasn't suggesting that purchasing it there. I was just saying, if you want to purchase, here's, you go online and you can buy it yourself or something,
Absolutely. And you don't have to buy them just from Mr. Fox. You can, it has to have it's a bio bag with a certain, like a BPI number. Again, I don't remember what it is, but Mr. Fox can give us some guidance on what's the minimum or the maximum BPI that they can have. You can also use a brown paper bag. It doesn't, if it's not plastic, but we'll have to look into that. Again, it's really hard. Our attendant is not going to have the time to be going back and forth and determining if somebody's using the proper bag. We'd rather just see them discarded. Any bag going in there, right, it has the potential of being a contaminant. So, I mean, these are the fine tunings of a program that we're still trying to work out.
Jen,
in our three major dining rooms on our three campuses here at Riverwoods do deal with Mr. Fox, and recently they have offered to pick up from our cottages. But for our apartment dwellers, we remind them that the Waste Management has also begged us to put organic material into the waste because it provides the methane fuel that they send to the University of New Hampshire. So they would be, it's not likely to happen, but if there would be no organic waste, Waste Management would be very unhappy. So that's just the other side of the picture. We tell our apartment dwellers that that's the best way to think about it.
We did inquire of Waste Management because we have to be careful. We do have a 5-year contract with them, and they're very specific about what we can and can't do about changing the waste stream. We had to make sure that would not be an issue for them, and they said it would not.
I would not think you would get enough people to cause any problem that way.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll be curious, and maybe somebody here knows what's the typical participation rate that we should expect. I have no way of knowing that. And that's why we started with just 2 of the containers. I think some of the communities that have been doing it for longer, I believe Durham has been doing it for the longest time. They may have 3 of these containers or larger containers. That's the other thing. Mr. Fox is getting away from the 96-gallon toters because they're very heavy and problematic to handle. So they're getting into smaller containers, but some of those communities have the old, larger containers.
So Jennifer, did knowing what's happening in neighboring towns, because I saw that Dover's doing it now, and also we have Newmarket as well that does it. Does Mr. Fox, does John have sort of guidelines or tips for us in terms of what's worked and what hasn't worked, or what the problems have been with the system in the other towns, so that we can learn from that and make sure that we don't repeat?
So we've had conversations with several of the communities, not all of them. We've talked to Newmarket and Durham, Greenland. Greenland just, I think, started up, is probably one of the most recent. So we've had the chance to talk with the staff, and we certainly talked with Mr. Fox and or staff from Mr. Fox. And there really aren't very many pitfalls. I think, they've been really good, again, at identifying some of the challenges. Getting away from the largest toters, getting down to a medium-sized toter was important. Because it's a weekly collection, there haven't been problems with what we call vectors in the business. That means, varmints. And that's really important. Obviously, we have the transfer station is in a residential area, and we certainly don't want to cause any problems for the neighbors. But the weekly collection has basically prevents that.
And so what would the next steps be? I know you said that you'll be presenting it to the select board. So do you have a timescale?
I believe we were talking about February 22nd. I believe the board has a fairly full agenda. I'm looking to Nico, he's nodding. So I think the 22nd was when we plan to get in front of them. And ideally, we would like to start in cold weather months because we figure we'll probably have a little bit of a slower startup than if we started right in the middle of the best time of the year and everybody's outside. We'll probably get the hardcore that have been eager to get, this kind of a program going, and we'll be able to grow it as we need. If they need to come more frequently, if we need to put out more bins, the price will go up, but that means we're diverting more and we're going to be saving on our solid waste tonnage. So we don't see that as a challenge. We see that as a positive. But I want to do a little bit more analysis on that and kind of have some of the numbers available for the select board to be able to chew on.
I wonder if there's any mileage in members here voting on having composting and put our name as a committee to back and support you. It would be great.
It would be great. I'd welcome that. I know that one of Dave's coworkers, Kristen Murphy, had just reached out to me. I told her ears must have been burning because she lives in Dover and has just started. Dover has just started this too, and so she was promoting it, and she's offered to help us get the word out. I think getting the word out would be really helpful coming from this group. When we have dates and start dates, maybe coming up with some great informational, not necessarily brochures, because we're trying to reduce our solid waste footprint, but messaging, Facebook posts, sharing out into the community, that would be really welcome, especially coming from a diverse group. It's not just, the town of Exeter, the Public Works Department pushing it. I think that would be great.
Madam Chair, I would think we'd be well served to put a letter of endorsement together for this. I think it's a great idea.
Definitely.
Hey, Jennifer, thanks very much for putting this together. Really appreciate it. One question I had, and I'm mindful of the varmint issue, but I was wondering, has there been any thought given to putting, if we're getting 2 totes, potentially putting them in different locations so that there might be an opportunity for some people that are closer to one end of the town? I'm thinking of maybe the DPW building, for instance, instead of at the transfer station, so that the people on the north side of 101 or people closer to town might have an easier trip getting there. And I'm only suggesting that because, I think in programs like this, it's really, the least amount of impact we can have on people's general lives, daily lives, would encourage more people, I think, to use this program. So the simpler we can make it and the most convenient we can make it, I think, will be helpful. So just something to think about.
I agree with you completely that we want to eventually grow to being able to do that. I think initially we want to just do it at the transfer station where we can control it and monitor it. We're only open, certain hours, and there is an attendant there the whole time. So he can help people that are just getting started. But I agree, there may be locations, but right now I'd be a little concerned where it's new for us doing it without an attendant there to help explain to people why it's important not to throw in bags and other materials. And we could do that eventually at Public Works for sure, because we're there more than the transfer station is open. But again, we've got to have somebody who's readily available to answer people's questions and make sure it's done right. And I'd be a little concerned doing it anywhere else because, again, there's just not going to be that, unless it's, say, at Parks and Rec or someplace where there's somebody there all the time. We've got to be really careful about it. And as it gets closer into the heart of town and you have foot traffic, I get concerned that they're going to throw in their ice cream with the styrofoam cup, right? And it's just not going to cut it. We've got to we've got to be careful how we progress with it. But I do agree that we want to minimize. I realize this is going to mean a trip to the transfer station for people. There's people who are burning fuel to do that. But I think if we start here, we may be able to find other places that we could make it appropriately available.
All makes absolute sense. Thank you.
Jennifer, just another quick question going back to the recycling. Thank you for doing this as well. I live in a condo unit and we have a community recycling bin. And I'm constantly posting signs and making people aware of what needs to be done so that contaminants are stay out of the bin. But there's a misconception that, and maybe you can answer this, if contaminants are placed in the bin, say it's appliances or plastic bags, lots of plastic bags, does the whole bin, one, get fined, and two, get rejected and just thrown into regular waste?
So you must have a private contract, I would assume. It's not waste. Well, it's not the town's waste management.
No,
it's waste
right.
management. But
Right.
so every hauler handles it differently. I'm not sure how your particular association's contractor deals with it. But it's usually pretty similar. There's usually fines. I'm the same way. When I go places and I see, I can't help it. I'm pulling stuff other people, which is kind of scary. I don't do that these days, but I have been known to do it in the past.
Right.
Madam Chair, sorry.
I'm sorry, Nina, if I could just continue. We do have these great informational brochures. I'm happy to send some to you so you can post them in the vicinity of those of your recycle bin and pass them on to your neighbors if that would help. Because
that would be great.
It's pretty similar, but if it's a completely different hauler, you might want to reach out to them and see if they have something like that. And
I've asked for signs and stickers, and they've never gotten a response. So that would be great. I will reach out to you. Thank you. Yeah.
Chetna, I'm wondering, and just thinking out loud here, and I realize that for the most part, the recycling bins that homeowners have are their property, right? They've paid for them. But I'm wondering if, I'm reflecting back on Jennifer's comments here and on the notes I took. It's like, it's a communication opportunity. And I'm wondering if we could find some funds or raise some funds to get some, simple stickers produced that go right on people's 64-gallon bins that really have those 3 rules and the 3 plastics that are acceptable as just a daily reminder, a weekly reminder when things are going out, that they sort of edit. What I worry about brochures is that they're going to end up in the recycling bin, right? They're going to live for a short period of time. But if we can affix something to the recycling bin as a friendly reminder from the town that it's 1, 2, and 5, and here are the 3 rules for recycling, and maybe we can even make it useful and put a big white blank space for their last name so they know it's their recycling bin or something like that. Just something, and we could look into the cost of that. But boy, if we could, I'd rather see the $500 a year we have to pay in fines go towards some sort of communication.
That's a great idea. Yeah,
I've seen some bins with stickers on. I assume that wasn't from DPW, or
we do have stickers that they're very simple and they're used for people that haven't bought a bin, that may be using a cardboard box. And it says commingled recyclables, and it's just a rectangular sticker. We have that already. But
I'm just wondering whether the slides that you shared with us, whether there were any pictorial ones, because I think people, instead of words, people tend to sort of take in more when it's a visual.
I'm sure that they are out there, and we will look into that and see if we can find something. I think it's a great idea. Thank you.
But in the meantime, if you could share those slides, I'm sure we can put them out on our social outlets and put it on our website, on the sustainability
will do.
One thing I liked about your presentation was listing through everything that shouldn't go in the recycling bin. So I feel like the pictures are great, but then there's the like, what, you know? And so I feel like if we could have like a fine print. So if you're curious, no. You know, like if we could have like a fine print on that sticker, I think that'd be really helpful, because you're like, can I recycle wrapping paper? Is that okay? Can I, like, you know, so if it's like, all right, if it's not on this, nah. And then the last thing, like, when in doubt, throw it out. Like, that would be a good reminder of like, it harms the system when it gets contaminated.
Excellent. Yes.
Yeah, I'd love to find a way in the big picture to turn, like, I'm so afraid of when in doubt, throw it out, because I think it's sort of, it just like people aren't going to look for 1, 2, or 5 and are like, forget it, throw it out. Well, I do realize it's self-regulating, that you're going to have to buy more blue bags if you do that too much. I'd love to have it somehow find a way to people's mentality when they're making purchases, that they're making selections in the grocery to like, yeah, this one's got less packaging, I'm not going to buy it, or you're not going to buy this one instead. Yeah, I'm really worried about the path of least resistance for people making the wrong choice, you know?
Yeah, and that's why I'm just saying, like, have the fine print, and then the last part of the fine print be when in doubt, throw it out. So you have to get all the way through. Like, you tried really hard to see if it was recyclable, and if you're already to that point, then you're, you know, it's not the path of least resistance. You tried really hard to see if it was recyclable.
Yeah, agreed.
All right.
Great. I think I know who I should send any template for a sticker to. I'm going to want to pass it by this group, because you've all had great ideas.
Any more questions for Jennifer?
I know you were talking as I came on about the Blue Bag program and kind of the history. I wasn't prepared tonight to get into great detail. And I know, Chetna, you had reached out to me, and I've been wanting to get to it. This has been a super, super busy time for me. I'd love to come back and talk to you all more about that, if that's okay. Unless there's something that you really wanted answered right now, I'll come back at another time that's convenient for you.
Yeah, I think we can pick it up again at a later date. That'd be great. So our next step, February 22nd, the select board meeting. So if you need anything from us prior to that, I'm sure, the committee is probably going to endorse the composting at the transfer station. I don't know, do people want to say yes or nay, or just give the support to Jennifer? Are we all in agreement?
Yay. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, that's good to know. So Jennifer, if you need anything specific from us for that, let us know, but we're right behind you.
I really appreciate that, and I'm sure Nico being here, he can echo what's that the committee was supportive, and I anticipate the board will be too. They've always had an interest in finding opportunities to do things right environmentally and a cost savings. I think it's a win-win situation. So. But I know there needs to be opportunities for questions, and there may be public that have questions that need answered too. So,
okay. Well, thank you very much for taking the time and explaining and coming on. That's really, really appreciative. And we'll be in touch with the blue bag situations.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the time.
Thanks, Jen.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you. Okay.
So, Madam Chair, much like you did with the solar array, maybe on the 22nd, you could come just representing the committee and just to speak for it. Yeah.
Yep, sure. Happy to do that.
Perfect. Thank you.
That'd be great. All right. Any update, Dave? There you are. I'm going to try to find you in my squares. Any updates for sustainability?
Sure do. I got two, both solar related. That was a great segue from Jennifer saying, the board's always looking for opportunities, environmental efforts, and it's funny. The solar array went to the select board as two warrant articles were written. One was the direct ownership. The other was the lease. I'm sure some of you already know, and we're at the meeting. The board, happy to report that the select board voted unanimously in support of the warrant article to issue a $3.6 million bond to purchase and construct the solar array at the landfill. Yeah, so if that passes, that'll be very exciting. The Energy Committee is very excited about it as well. They're already kind of taking the charge of getting the word out and putting stuff on our website, our Facebook page, and so forth, and getting the word out on their own. So that's very exciting. It's going to the March ballot. And I just want to thank Kristen on the committee, Kristen Osterwood. She served on our interview panel. Her insight and participation was invaluable to us, and I was glad to have her on board. So thank the committee for offering. The second one is another solar project that came up, not necessarily constructed, but the DPW solar array. The town manager got a letter about potentially purchasing the solar array. We do have a buyout option at 10 years, but it's at year 8. And the town manager asked me for my advice on it, and I got Revision Energy involved. They went out and did an assessment on it, a condition assessment, and they've already done that. They submitted that to me, but I was also looking for, in addition to the assessment, this could be upgraded, what have you. What is it worth? Is it worth the town potentially purchasing? What will the benefits be? So they're giving us a written analysis on that. And once we get that, we'll share that internally, and then maybe move toward to the select board to potentially purchase the solar array at the DPW. Because if you're not aware, it's a 50 kilowatt system at the DPW. It's been in existence about 8 years. It was a PPA, a power purchase agreement. It's kind of behind the meter, so we don't pay the distribution charges, but we do pay the electricity charges, and it goes in. So we're looking at possibly purchasing. If we do, we get some benefits of the RECs and so forth, and can use it potentially to offset emissions, greenhouse gas emissions as well. So those are the two things on my update. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
It's good
news. And I shared the flyer, the brochure that the Energy Committee put together, and added the committee's name to it, because we don't want excess leaflets lying around. Coming together. So that's available for us to, again, put out anywhere. If Nina wanted to put on the website, on the Facebook page and so on, then go ahead and get it out there. That'd be great. So thank you, Dave. Any update on the communication side of things from Chris or Nina?
I guess I don't have any exact updates based on what we've been doing for this committee. The communications committee is working currently on creating reviews of all the different warrant articles, and we will be giving those over to the press to communicate with the public. And that includes the warrant. Also, on a note of just getting the information, if you have anything, or that, it's I guess we're relying on the whole committee to just send along emails either to Chris or myself to post things, or what any ideas that you have. I mean, we got a lot of great ideas from Jennifer's presentation right now to easily create things, but just send them, just whatever it is. That way, because it's hard to stay up on everything that's going on. But that's all I ask, that so that we can have more of a more established communications. Hasn't been consistent, I guess, from my point. Chris?
Yeah, no, I'd support that. And again, I apologize to the whole team. I've been sort of out of commission offline for the past few weeks, but hitting the ground running again. And I agree with Nina. I mean, obviously, we've been working internally to make sure we have a throughput path to get stuff put on the town Facebook page, which continues to be one of the most trafficked in the town and most visible. So as we have things, we've got a mechanism to get things posted. And, again, I'd like to see if we have an item a month, 2 items a month would be great, just to get some things going. I think a great place to start would be, in my opinion, I'd love to encapsulate all the things that Jen just went through on just a great town update on recycling. And even just, there's probably 2 posts there, just getting people's heads around the 3 plastics that we all deal with and stuff every single day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner in our house, right? And so that means all of our neighbors are too. And so I'd love to just help them with a post on the town website to remind them of that, and then maybe skip a beat 10 days, 2 weeks, and put the 3 rules up. And we've got 2 solid posts that people can do something with that brings some value to them. So
I took some really good notes. I was able to type very quickly while she was, so I have everything she said on the recycling and such. So. Oh,
great. Maybe Nina and Kristen and I can get together and craft 2 posts out of that. Would that sound like a plan?
That sounds great. I'd also love to do a post on purchasing renewable energy. We live in a power choice state, and most people don't do it. It's such a low-hanging fruit. That your bill might increase this much, but then all the energy you're using comes from renewable energy. That's great. It's such a minor thing to do, and it makes such a big difference.
And it's probably just an awareness thing. I think a lot of people don't know.
Yeah, anything like that, just shoot us an email and we'll get it up there, like you did for the Warren article. You listed out nicely some key points, and those are good things to make posts from. So any insight anybody has?
Yep.
Thank you for that. Update, Dave, on the resilience program.
I don't have anything. I haven't spoken with Julie in the last couple of weeks, so I'll try to get in touch with her and have an update for the next meeting.
Okay. All right. We'll move on to any other business. I know Bev had a couple of things that she wanted to mention. Bev, did you want to?
One thing mainly. We're beginning to think about plastic substitutes, and they're beginning to come on the market. In other words, refuse plastic or reuse the old container and put something different in it. So these are laundry sheets. It's compressed soap, although it looks like fabric. And you take two halves of this and put it in your washing machine soap container, and it does a really good job. And I have found that there are 4 or 5 different brands now online. So this sort of thing is proliferating fairly quickly. So we've started publicizing that here at Riverwoods, and just started this month really. But we're offering people we'll give you a couple of sheets if you want to try it out. So I've had 6 or 8 people.
Bev, do you think you could send an email to Nina or Chris to have 3 bullet points and link to the, a few brands that have those? I think that'd be a great thing to have. And
you would like to have the brand, you want me to email you the brand names? I'm not hearing everything.
Oh, sorry. Yes. If you could email what's the benefit of using these, 3 bullet points and some brand names to share on the Facebook page for communications.
I don't know what 3 bullet points is.
Well, 3 facts, 3 reasons why it's a good idea.
Okay, 3.
No plastic bottles for a start.
Yeah, no plastic bottles, not shipping water all over the country. Like some, but just I think
3 reasons for avoiding plastic in your purchases.
Yeah.
Because your laundry soap comes in big jugs, that big plastic jugs. So
right.
Pretty big item that you're getting rid of.
I think all of us are behind you. I just think putting together something to share on the Facebook page would be great.
Huge number in a box here it would recommend that it would represent about 1,000 jugs of. It really is a big difference. Yeah. Okay. I'll send you something. In other words, a little tiny article on why to use it.
And
you want the different brands mentioned? I can get them offline.
If you can mention the different brands, and then we're not sort of favoring one over the other. So it would be great. And if you have a problem with
announcement,
and if you have an issue with or problem with coming up with 3 reasons for why people should consider making the switch, I can help you out, Nina. I can add to that. All right. Thank you, Bev, for that. Anyone have any other business they want to mention or bring up?
I just had a question. When we're posting these things, what Facebook page do they get posted from? Is it the town, or do we have?
It's a great question, and you're relatively new to the committee, so you don't know the 2 miles of broken glass we crawled across to come up with that.
Didn't realize it was a sore subject.
No, it's not. So a couple of things, and maybe Nina's on communication committee. She could probably give you a good overview of that. But the way there was several internal audits of all the different Facebook pages and social media pages that we have for the town, different outlets and things like that. And you can check pretty quickly. The Town of Exeter Facebook page, I believe, is still has the most followers and most traffic on it. So our plan was not to enter in the fray with yet another one, although we have a friendly one that's a private page, not town affiliated, that we post some sustainability news on. But the objective would be to put Sustainability Advisory Committee news or items, communication items, on the Town of Exeter Facebook page.
Right. And what does it get posted from? Or is it just the Town of Exeter Facebook page posts it for itself?
Yes. Obviously the whatever headline we come up with would reference something to do with sustainability or whatever the topic would be. And if you think of it this way, first of all, it's a municipality, so it's not, a significant marketing force, if you will. And obviously, the Town of Exeter website is a great collection of information, but it's very passive, right? It's a resource for you to go get information, but it's really not serving you information into your feed. So the objective here was to have these news items go in the most trafficked page that the town had.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We also post general stuff. It depends on what they'll take, but there's an Exeter forum, which is very popular.
Yeah.
So like general things like the public service announcement from Bev about the laundry detergent, for instance, or the benefits of composting, or more general things that don't necessarily show a strong opinion, I think are usually accepted for the forum.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Dave, did you have a?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that. Thank you for the question. If it goes onto a town website, it needs to follow our social media policy. So for example, the latest solar array at the DPW, the Energy Committee created a flyer and they recommended which way to vote. And we can't put that on the town website. So they had to remove that because our social media policy, we can't make an opinion on a ballot measure. So, kind of stay apolitical. And also there's some, what you can spend public funds on. So if you want anything to go to the town website, we have to kind of, take a look at it and vet it before we can put it up there. But then the Energy Committee was free to take theirs and put it on their own Facebook pages and do what they want. So that's just a note.
Got it. I guess my thought was, if we're making all these helpful resources and posting them, Like, is there a way for them to be collected somewhere if someone was like, oh, I know I saw what the recycling theft was? Do they live somewhere? And is that on our website? Maybe, I don't know.
I would guess, and again, maybe Dave would know. DPW also has a very active social media page and also a great corner of the website as well. So it's very likely collected there. I think the challenges with a lot of stuff that ends up on the website is it is very passive, and at that moment of choice when you're recycling, for example, you're not going to go look up the town website to figure out where to go, or if you do, you're an exceptional citizen to do that. So, the idea is to populate as many of these things as often in the places in the feeds where people are living daily. So
we have the unofficial, the Exeter Sustainability Advisory page, Facebook page. So we don't really make comment on that. We just post something that's relevant or a tip or whatever. So that's I posted on that recently. Like the pumpkin composting stuff I posted it on there with the film when it was collected and so on. So that's got a few followers. People follow that, and then there's the Seacoast Goes Green, which is totally done by a resident from Exeter, and again, people just put up tips there for people. So unofficial ones, which aren't sort of Exeter town, but there's, places that people can go to.
Okay, thanks.
Speaking of websites, I think, Dave, we talked about last time, like being able to access the Sustainable Exeter page that you've been working on from the, exeternewhampshire.gov page. And it still doesn't, I emailed, but it hasn't changed of like changing the department to say like planning and sustainability, or having it under community, having sustainability be an option there. Should I email you again?
Yes.
Okay.
Because that doesn't sound familiar. An attachment. Sometimes it goes into my junk or spam and I don't get it, but I don't think from you.
From me? I would.
No, but resend it. Resend it, please. Resend it. Yeah.
All right. If we have no more, then it's 8:30. I can bring the meeting to a close. Our next meeting is Tuesday, the 2nd of March, 2021. So, adjourn.
great. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Good to see you all.
Good to see
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Bye.
Good night.
Take care and be